Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Kosman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 469 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Kosman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. I don't know if you saw anything from last week, Eddie. If you did, then jump in. I actually didn't see too much action last week. So we're going to start here last Friday at the Star in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. It was on early in the morning UK. It was on very early in the morning US. We saw Janibek Alimkhanuly topping the bill, defending his IBF middleweight world title. He's now 16-0, a TKO for him in the 9th round against Andrei Mikhailovich, who's now 21-1. He loses his He was down in the 2nd round, Mikhailovich. Got back up and toughed it out, but did get broken down and then stopped, like I say, in the 9th round. A good win there for Alimkhanuly. Just kind of a bit random that it went down in Australia. Moving now to the Caledonia Gladiators Arena in Scotland. Over here we saw Lee McGregor return with a win, a TKO win for him in the 3rd round. He's now 14-1-1. That TKO came against Diana Polo, who's now 6-4 with 2 draws. Moving now to the final card to mention. This one went down at the Echo Arena in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom. Over here we saw Andrew Kane with a nice early stoppage win, a 2nd round TKO against Lazaro Caceres. Caceres is now 11-2. Andrew Kane now 13-1. That one for the vacant WBC International Silver Bantamweight title. A right uppercut put him down there in the 2nd. One fighter that we have to certainly take note of is Javier Herrera, who's now 16-0, I believe, with 14 of them inside the distance. A TKO in the 3rd here against Oliver Flores, now 31-6 with 2 draws. Flores down from a left hand to the body. Herrera seems to be one to watch. A Cuban who can punch, a Cuban who excites. Moving up the card once again, we saw Henry Turner get stopped. He's now 13-1. An upset here against Jack Rafferty, who's now 24-0. Rafferty with the 9th round stoppage. Rafferty certainly has the most wins of any British boxer right now in terms of winning streaks. At 24-0, no one else has got that many wins without a loss and a draw. Very, 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 very good fight, actually. Henry Turner, I felt, was in control early on. But Jack Rafferty just kind of broke him down, really. I think if it was an 8-round fight, Henry Turner would have probably nicked it. But Jack Rafferty, like I say, man, he showed up with a hell of a lot of belief, and even though things weren't going too great for him early on, he stuck in there and basically just ended up getting to Henry Turner. And in hindsight, it seemed like why for Henry Turner, why it was maybe a little bit early. I don't know. I was quite impressed with Henry Turner in his recent performances. I felt he'd really come on leaps and bounds. And this is quite a bad setback, I think, here. It was for the vacant British, the Commonwealth and the WBC International Silver Super Lightweight titles. Turner down in the 9th round. Those body shots just got to him there. And then Al Smith in the corner decided to stop it. The main event, Nick Ball now 21-0 2-0 with a draw, a non-title fight here, but it was back at home. It was a homecoming for the undefeated world champion against Ronnie Rios, a guy who pretty much is as tough as they come. Rios now 34-5. Rios down 3 times in the end. Once in the 3rd, once in the 7th, once in the 10th. His corner threw the towel in that 10th round. I think, Rios had some interesting tactics, some I guess kind of obvious tactics. He went in there, pretty much tried to go to the body of Bull to try to slow down that relentless pressure that we've seen pretty much time and time again now. I think he was quite effective going down to the body, but Nick Bull is just made of something else, and, he tried his best, Ronnie Rios. He certainly turned up, and earned his paycheck, but yeah, just didn't have enough for Nick Bull. A lot of people expected it to go this way, a stoppage, probably in the later part of the fight, because that's kind of what Nick Bull does. He grinds you down and then stops you, and that is what he did. So a good win for him, another nice learning fight. I'm sure he'll learn a lot from that, and it was another interesting style, and I just don't know how to put an end to Nick Bull. People have tried to go to the body, people have tried to be negative, people have tried to meet him head on, and he seems to have answers for everything. So great win for Nick Bull. That is the end of the review part of the show. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBC Flyweight champion of the world. It is, of course, Mr. Charlie Edwards. Charlie, it's been a long time. Welcome back.
Nice one, mate. It's good to be back. It's good to be back up in the lights where I belong. It's been a very hard and grueling few years of inactivity, etc. But we're back on top, baby. Bantamweight European champion now, highly ranked in all the governing bodies, and pushing on to Japan.
Absolutely, and I'm over the moon for you. One thing that hasn't been inactive, you probably don't remember this, but years and years ago you sent me a voice note, and it's still on the intro every single week for the podcast. So the listeners hear your voice every single week, which is brilliant. We haven't, though, done an interview since 2018. It's been a long time, like I say. How have things been in that time, in a nutshell?
Oh, mate, it's been a rocky roller coaster. Good, the bad, the ugly. But you know what? In that time, I've developed a character, and I've grown into a person that I'm very proud of today. And it's the person that I need to be to kind of like walk the next steps. I'm coming into the peak years of my career now, so it's all systems go for me. I'm a fresh fighter who won a world title very early, who was chucked into the limelight. From being an overnight success, media attention, big following come all of a sudden, and then it got took away from me, swept under my feet, with a lot of stuff that is boxing politics, which I don't really need to go into too much. It's well documented everywhere, and now I've landed where I am today, and that's the best Charlie Edwards at this moment in time in his career, coming into his peak years of his career, and looking to push for legacy now. Like, my goal is legacy. My dream is to go down as a British great and become a multi-weight world champion, a 4 times world champion at 4 different weight divisions. And you can call me deluded, but that's the dream that I've been sent from God. That's what's in my mind, and we take one fight at a time and give everything to that fight that's in front of us, and we push and push and push until the wheels fall off.
And talking of one fight at a time, let's jump in. Obviously, you dethroned EBU European champion Thomas Essomba the other Friday at York Hall. Talk me through that fight, Charlie. The commentators had it very close going into the last 2.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised and shocked with the commentators. I've watched the fight back. Many other people have said the same things. I said I don't know what them commentators are watching, because it was quite comfortably, you was one step ahead of everything. You was pushing the pace, you was hitting in and out. I don't know if my hand speed is too quick and the old boys on the commentary couldn't pick it up, or they was distracted and talking amongst each other, but it's not something that I agreed with. The scorecards and judges had it a lot wider. I, being hard on myself, I had it 8 rounds to 4. But a lot of people were saying I thought you'd only lost 2 rounds or lost 3 rounds. And I think it's hard, isn't it? Because when everyone expects and wants you to knock someone out, or they want you to like completely whitewash someone, any bit of little success in certain rounds, maybe they sway the other way because they don't expect them to have any success. Yeah. So it was a fight that was a good fight. I knew Thomas. I've known Thomas. You've probably known Thomas and you've seen him. 2-time Olympian. His record, he only loses by 1 or 2 rounds. I think actually am, because I've researched it on BoxRec. I'm the fighter who's beaten most convincing in his pro career.
Wow. So
we know he was up against a hard fight, a tough fight, and a tricky operator. And he was also with my old team. My brother was in his corner as his manager. I'm happy with the fight. It was a tricky fight. It was probably one of my easiest physically fights, and like fitness-wise, I didn't feel like I got out of gear, to be honest. He didn't really want to do much. He was just trying to nick it and be negative. So I just chipped away, got the job done, and always was that one step ahead of him. And I enjoyed it. I think that fight was probably my most kind of mentally challenging fight because of all the build-up, because of who was with him. I was hearing my old teammate Dalton Smith, and we're really good friends, you know what I mean? Him shouting what to do against me in the other corner. All them little things played a bit of like a little tick in my head, because it's been like a very big personal growth journey, the whole build-up, beating my old team, going up against my brother when he was in their corner. So for me, I was happy, you know, and I feel like that's going to have grown me massively now, stepping into the next stages, stepping into the world scene, you know. He just tried to nick the fight. He didn't want to engage. When he tried to engage, now I've watched the fight a few times back, I buzzed him, I hurt him, which made him go more negative. So he played a tricky fight, and all praise and all props to him. It was a fight that I think's grown me massively.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the cleaner, more consistent work was coming from yourself, but as we know, Essomba, he can be a bit of a nightmare. I never forget, you know, the fight he had against Thomas Patrick Ward. He was a complete nightmare that night, and he can be very hard to look good against. I'm happy that you said there, you know, that you know, perhaps the commentary were a bit off, because yeah, as soon as I saw them say it was really close, I went and checked the in-play odds, and it wasn't close. You know, the bookies had you cruising that fight as well, so maybe the commentary were off. You mentioned, Charlie, that obviously Sonny managed or manages Thomas. Did you go in with, I think you kind of did go in with a point to prove, but did Sonny really truly think Thomas would be able to beat you?
I personally, I can only speak from me as his brother, I personally think he knew that I was going to come on top. He knew the right Charlie Edwards turns up on the night he beats absolutely anyone in the world, because he knows how good I am. However, I've got to give my brother props as a manager. He is a good manager, and at the end of the day, that was Thomas's biggest opportunity against his own brother. Had he beat me, he could have gone on to the world scene. And he definitely would have got picked on the world scene as a voluntary or something for a world title. So he gave Thomas, his fighter, the best opportunity. Thomas also got paid the most he's ever been paid in his career, which has set him up nicely. And you know what? Like, it was something I wanted, and he gifted me that. You know, so I've got to hold a lot of love and respect for my brother, because before I won the European title last week, everyone was just like, "Oh, he's come back again." Even though I won the WBC international title in my last fight against a proper fighter, now I'm European champion. People have started to stand up and show me respect again, and realise that I'm a bloody good fighter. You know, after being writ off after COVID, after being kept inactive, and promotional issues, management issues, like. It's been a tough road. I've been staying in the gym, constantly grinding, constantly developing, staying fresh, eating clean, quit alcohol and everything, really gone deep in myself. So now I'm back on top. It's great, but I owe that to my brother really, because I've been in the everyone knows, anyone who's anyone in the actual boxing world, why I've been in the Who Needs Him club is because I'm a hard night's work for absolutely anyone. I'm always fit, always strong, sharp, can box, can fight, can punch. So like I'm an all-rounded fighter. So people don't want to take that risk, but my brother allowed me and give Thomas the perfect opportunity in his career to fight and to get back in where I deserve. So now I'm back in top. I'm in the headlines. All the media channels are all over me again. Big fights on the horizon. I'm mentally there, ready for them big fights. And I'm hungrier than ever. So, like I said, I've got to be grateful for that time because I'm back now.
And Charlie, a bit of a personal question, but I wanted to ask, how did the rest of your family feel about you kind of being in opposite corners with Sonny? Were they able to look at it as strictly business, or was there an emotional attachment?
We're in the show business, you know. Obviously, my sister was backing me, and my family are backing me in that sense, because at the end of the day, I'm the one fighting. But my brother played his role. He played the villain. He turned up in his Frank Lucas jacket, which I gave him the idea to do in weeks in advance. So we played we played show business, you know, and that fight become a lot bigger than it would have been if we didn't play the show business, you know, and it's brought the Edwards name even bigger to light. And at the end of the day, we all knew it was kind of business.
Excellent, man. And obviously, as soon as you were announced the winner, you whipped on a T-shirt. You became the villain then. Paul Butler on the T-shirt, Joe Gallagher on the front of the T-shirt. There seems to obviously be a lot of beef with your former trainer, Joe Gallagher. For those that don't know, Charlie, where did that come from? What can you tell us?
To be honest, I've been getting these questions a lot, you know, and it's all well documented. It's all out there. You know, I don't need to go on about him too much more. I'm sick of his name, to be honest. And what people don't understand is this whole situation right now. We're talking present. I'm not going to go back and talk about the past and that. The present moment we're in now is that although I put that T-shirt on after my fight and made it public that I want him, it's not actually, that is not the actual full extent of the story. And this is what people don't understand. This is how the mandatory challenger works. So I weren't even in the picture. Thomas was champion, and there was hints that I wanted to go for the EBU and fight Thomas, and everything kind of it was longed out, and the fight weren't getting made, etc. So Paul and his team, they emailed the EBU and applied, because this is how it works. They applied to be the mandatory challenger for the EBU title. So then the EBU have gone away, looked at Paul's resume and what he's achieved and that, and deemed him, he'd be good for the title. So they accepted Paul Butler's and his team's proposal and made him the mandatory. So Paul and his team tried to push the mandatory on Thomas Essomba, not realising that Thomas Essomba had a voluntary defence that he's allowed to do before he fights his mandatory. So without knowing, they made themselves mandatory. But Thomas then decided to pick his voluntary. And obviously me and my brothers have been talking, and Nitha and Keller have been talking, and Lee Eaton, to make the fight. So we made the fight. So theoretically, Paul Butler thought Charlie Edwards was out of the picture, or him and his team tried to push me out of the picture to steal the title fight. So they didn't know I was going to be the champion at the time. So really, they called out me. And in the eyes, they called the champion out. All right, I weren't around there, but I'm around now. So you called the EBU champion. You wanted the belt. Right, I gone and beat Thomas, which I had confidence in doing, and thought, you know what? I'm not going to allow this to happen, that I get called out by Paul Butler and his team, my old team, and it gets a pullout or it goes under the radar, and the fight don't happen because they've jumped the IBO route, or they just don't fancy the fight for whatever situation. So that's why I put the T-shirt on after the fight, because I weren't allowing that to happen. So realistically, it's not me gunning for Paul Butler and Joseph Gallagher. They're gunning for me. I just made it public.
Right.
So if I don't get anything bigger, because I'm holding the chips now, I'm in the driver's seat. If I don't get anything bigger, world title shots, and that's either at super flyweight or bantamweight, because I would drop down to super flyweight if there's a world title shot and there's an opportunity, because I'm in this game for legacy. So I would win a world title at super flyweight and move straight back up to bantamweight and win a world title, and then I've got a few years to grow into a super bantam to chase my dream. But if that doesn't happen and we can't get that, or get me in a world title eliminator or something like that, then you best believe I'm fighting my mandatory. It's gone to purse bids. Purse bids have to be done by the end of the month. So that is what's going to happen. I think Paul Butler is a true fighting man, because why would you put yourself in a position, no matter who the champion is, if you put yourself in the position, you want to fight for that title. So we'll see what happens. But normally, when somebody goes missing and stays quiet, they don't want to be found. So I suppose some questions have got to be asked to his side, his team, and find out what's what. But only time will tell, and it's all in God's plan. And whatever gets presented to me, we can make a decision and go from there. But that was the whole story behind that.
No, I appreciate you explaining that and shedding some light on it. Like I say, it does seem like, yeah, you're holding the chips, your future's bright, you've got a lot of options, which is fantastic. And I'm glad that, you're finally at that stage after the boxing politics screwed you around for a while. Edwards Yafai, we are finally getting it. November 30th, Sonny versus Galal. Sadly, not yourself versus Kal. How does that fight go, Charlie?
I think it's going to be a Sonny Edwards win. Obviously, it depends what Sonny Edwards turns up in his head and what he wants to do and prove. I would like to stick him to what he knows best, and that's Showtime Sonny. Although he got booed out in America in his last fight for making it such a one-sided landslide, dominant win, he got booed because he was hitting, moving, dropping his hand and doing that. But in the UK, I believe that the UK fans will love that. They love Sonny for what he used to be as a ghost, making people miss and saying, yeah, they love him also when he goes in and tries to have a tear up in a fight. But for me, I'd like to see Sonny box in a clever, mature way and absolutely unanimous points him and actually make it look so easy and show that he's levels above him. That's how I would like to see him fight.
Yeah, we cannot wait for that one. You did say that you had some promo stuff to release for you against Kal. Obviously, the fight never ended up happening. The footage never got released. What have you got up your sleeve, you little tease?
I actually released it last week. So if you want to see it, head over to my Instagram. Basically, when Kal decided to run off to America to not give me the fight I've wanted and chased for 6 years, because he's always dodged me and always not been confident in beating me. It's all come to light right now because he went off to America, tried to slide under the radar. He fought Rodriguez, got knocked out in the first or second round. Then he announces his retirement. He already had his retirement date and everything printed into his fight kit. So it just brought it to light that, you are a coward, Kal, and you never wanted to fight Charlie Edwards, and you always tried to put me down and said I offered nothing or thing. When I offered everything, I offered you 3 times the amount of pay that you got for your last fight where you got knocked out in, and I was going to put my fight purse on the line, and my sponsor was going to pay my fight purse to get that fight because we wanted it that bad, because it would have really added to my legacy story. And at the time of the quiet months when I was so inactive and didn't have nothing for so long, that was going to be my moment to get back to where I belonged, because I would have wiped him out like the last one. And then Rodriguez went on to lose 2 fights after Cal, so he's not even a contender no more. So just everything has materialised of what I said about Coward Cal. And Eddie Hearn wanted us on the press conference table, Sonny, Galal, Cal and me, because he really wanted to build this bloodline big show that was going to bring more and more eyes to it. But Coward Cal, being the coward he is, didn't want to. He rejected to sit on the press conference table, and so it's been a little bit bitter for me, because it's the one that always got away. I ain't ashamed to say that. So that's why I will continue to spread light on the fact that he dodged me for so many years, 6 whole years. And it was a shame, because it would have built even Sonny and Galal's fight even bigger. But he didn't want to play his part. It is what it is. But if you want to see the little content that I've chucked out, what I was going to use if he did win in that last fight, head over to my Instagram and you'll see Cal's ugly face sitting there. And you can click on it and see it. It's a laugh.
Yeah, it is a shame that fight got away, because like I say, I remember when you were coming up, from your pro debut, and Sonny, to be honest, you were coming up through those kind of British ranks, and there wasn't really good enough opposition for either of you. You just blitzing through everyone, and you kind of do need a dance partner sometimes, especially down at, flyweight, for example. And yeah, it's a shame we never did get that, unfortunately. It wasn't to do with your side, obviously, Charlie. The golden question and the final question I've got for you, Charlie: when will you be back out? You're in, obviously, like you say, the best position right now that you've been in for a number of years, I think it's fair to say, and I'm really happy for you about that.
Yeah, I want to be out ASAP. You know me, from the inactivity. I just want to fight, and I want to fight. I want to be active. That's the key for me. We don't know how the conversations have been going. We're still waiting to hear from Nissa, Kellasal and Wasserman, but they're working diligently in the background, reaching out to Mr. Hondas and the other champions and stuff, and the organisations, etc., etc. So we don't know. I'm on 2 weeks training ban from my coach Stephen Smith, so I'm not allowed to train. So on Friday I go to Sweden and I'll start ticking over again and getting some work in with the coach over there that I've linked up with before in the past. And as soon as, if I get a call and say, yo, Japan, Boxing Day, Japan New Year's Day, I'm straight back into camp and I'm going for it. Do you know what I mean? But the next TV date for Channel 5 and Wasserman, I think, is around end of January, February time. So that's the latest I'll be out. But hopefully it'll be sooner.
Oh, that's fantastic, Charlie. And just before we let you go, my friend, like I say, we haven't had you on for a number of years. You were on Core probably about as a free fight novice all them years back. If you've got any closing words to the listeners, you want to send a little message before we let you go, the floor is yours, my friend.
I just want to say a massive thank you for each and everyone out there who has believed in me through these times and stuck by me, supported me, messaged me, wished me back in the ring and sent out good positive energy for me, because it's all been very much appreciated. I'm grateful for it. We're back on this journey and this path now for greatness. And the world is really my oyster again, and there's going to be some massive nights ahead for Charlie Edwards and everyone who has supported me and continues to support me, and who is coming on board now to support me. Buckle up, because it's going to be a good one.
Listen, Charlie, I want to thank you so much for your time. Congrats again on that win. We'll speak again hopefully sometime before another 6 years pass.
Yeah, 100%, Joey. Nice one, brother. Keep up the good work.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this. On Saturday, December the 7th, at the Roberto Clemente Coliseum in San Juan, Puerto Rico, we will be seeing Liam Parrow defending his IBF super lightweight world title, obviously won from Subriel Matias. He defends it against Richardson Hitchens. So yeah, that's going to be a good fight, I think. I think we're probably going to see the best of Richardson Hitchens in that one there. Liam Parrow, though, you just can't write him off, especially after the way that he took Matthias apart. I won't say took him apart, but outsmarted him in his hometown, in his backyard. You cannot take anything away from Liam Parrow doing that. Massive upset of the odds there. Yeah, Richardson Hitchens, friend of the show. I'd like to see him do well there. What else do we have? I think there's another one that's been announced. No, I think I've made that one up. I don't think there's anything else. That is really the only kind of piece of news worth mentioning. We're going to move now to the preview part of the show. I'm going to give you a clue here, Eddie. I'm going to give you a little clue. But there's a fight going down in Germany at the Firat Arslan Sports Centre. Topping the bill would be...
Firat Arslan.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I know now.
At the ripe old age of 54, man, he's making you look like a baby, Eddie. He's 55-9 with 3 draws. He's back in a 10-rounder at cruiserweight against Angel Ledesma, who's 13-5 with a draw. It's been almost a year to the day since we last saw Firat Arslan in a boxing ring. And, you know, the last time we saw him box, he didn't box in his own arena. He decided to step out, you know, go box somewhere else. But I'm really happy to announce that he's back in the venue that, you know, is named after him. And, of course, he's promoting the show. Of course he is. And, of course, he's in the main event. And I'm pretty sure he's going to rack up win number 56 and look good doing it. So all the best there to the 54-year-old Southpaw. That's over 10 rounds at cruiserweight, by the way, that one. Moving now to the Aichi Sky Expo in Aichi, I think it said, in Japan. Just one fight to mention over here on Saturday. We've got South Africa's Sivanafi Nonshinga defending his IBF light flyweight world title. 13-1 he currently is. He steps in with Masamichi Yabuki, who is 16-4. That's over 12, of course, there. Yeah, let's move to this one here because I just want to kind of jump forward and then we'll leave the big card to last. But this one goes down on Sunday, October 13th, again in Japan, this time at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo. We're going to see Kenshiro Teraji, 23-1. Boxing former champion Christopher Rosales, 37-6. I'm quite surprised to still see him going. It's for the vacant WBC Flyweight world title. You'd, of course, you know, very much expect Kenshiro Teraji to win this one here, but should be an interesting fight there. And also another one that goes down at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo. It seems like there's going to be a card on Sunday night and on Monday night over there in Japan in the same building. We've got Kosi Tanaka, 20-1, defending his WBO Super Flyweight world title against 10-0 with 3 draws. Fumalele Kafu, never heard of him, but all the best to him. He'll need it. And also on that card, we're going to see Junto Nakatani, the WBC Bantamweight World Champion, 28-0. What a pleasure to watch him fight. He steps in, though, with Tassana Salapat, who's got one of the best padded records you're ever going to see. He's 76-1. That's a heck of a record there. Tassana Salapat. I've known about this guy for years, but I think he's going to be 76-2 come Monday morning in the UK and evening in the Ariake Arena, Tokyo, Japan. Now, let's move to the final card that we're going to mention. We've kind of gone, you know, and skipped to Sunday and Monday. Now we're going back to Saturday. We don't ever do that, but of course we have to leave the best till last here at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's going to be live on DAZN pay-per-view. I'm not sure if it's pay-per-view in the US. I'm going to assume it surely is. But anyway, let's start down the undercard. We're going to see Ben Whittaker, 8-0, back out in a bit of an interesting fight here, you know, over 10 rounds. He steps in with Liam Cameron, 23-6. Liam Cameron, I don't think, has boxed since his entertaining fight against Lyndon Arthur, where, you know, I felt he made it very uncomfortable for Lyndon in times in that fight there. I don't know what Lyndon has left though, but it was a good performance from Liam Cameron. He's never been stopped in his 6 losses. The bookies, I think, are expecting Whittaker to get him out of there though, but Whittaker himself hasn't really looked that great in recent performances, so could be interesting. It's a good undercard fight. We're going to see friend of the show, Sky Nicholson. She's defending her WBC Featherweight World title over 10 2-minute rounds. She's 11-0. She steps in with Raven Chapman, who's 9-0. This is another Eddie Hearn versus Frank Warren fight here. Of course, Nicholson representing Team Matchroom and Raven Chapman representing Queensbury. It's going to be a good style clash, this one. I'm actually looking forward to it. I think it's going to be quite entertaining because Raven Chapman can kind of box and fight. She does like to be aggressive. She likes to, come forward. And she's probably she's definitely more of the fighter of the two. Whereas Sky Nicholson, obviously tall, likes to do everything from behind the jab, good footwork. It's kind of like boxer versus brawler, I guess, in some ways. So I'm expecting this one to actually catch light quite early, and I'm expecting a good fight between these two undefeated ladies. May the best woman win. Also on the card, Chris Eubank Jr., 33-3 these days. Hasn't boxed in over a year since he beat Liam Smith in that rematch where Liam Smith just didn't quite look right. He steps in with former Gennady Golovkin and Jaime Munguia victim Kamil Seremeta. Now, there's no shame in those 2 losses there, Eddie, of course. Seremeta, 25-2-2. But, he's been stopped against Golovkin. He's been stopped against Munguia. But they were both, if I'm not mistaken, in the second half of the fight. So he's a tough pole. And, Eubank coming off a bit of inactivity. I'm not expecting him to walk through Seremeta in any way. I remember Golovkin had to kind of, not dig deep, but he had to think because he wanted to stop him, and it took him a while, where a lot of people were expecting him to just walk through Seremeta, who at that point in his career was undefeated, to be honest with you. But anyway, it's for the IBO middleweight world title, whatever that means. I'm expecting a few rounds here. I'd be quite surprised if Eubank got him out early. I'm expecting this could even go the distance. We may see Chris Eubank Jr. win on points here. I think he's about 2-1 to win on points. I think that's worth a go, to be honest with you. Also on the card, this one's going to be a brilliant fight. I don't know if you saw the first fight, Eddie. I think you may have done. But anyway, it's a rematch here at heavyweight between 2 undefeated heavyweight Brits. It's for the British heavyweight title. Fabio Wardley, 17-0 with a draw, stepping in with Fraser Clark, the 2020, I forget which year it was now, Olympic representative from Team GB, Fraser Clark, 8-0 with a draw. Obviously, Fabio Wardley was on a heck of a knockout streak when he went into that first fight with Fraser Clark, and people were expecting him to go in there and probably stop Fraser Clark again and continue that streak. Fraser Clark didn't look too great against Marius Wack at York Hall, I think, in the fight prior to that. That's why people felt he's just going to be too slow, and just not good enough, really, not able to deal with the explosiveness of Fabio Wardley. However, we were all proved wrong, and Fraser Clark had to soak up a couple of big shots, a couple of big Wardley moments, but he actually had a hell of a lot of success himself, and that kind of it kind of proved that when it came down to the scorecards at the end. So this is going to be a good heavyweight fight. I don't know if you saw the first one, Eddie. Maybe if you didn't, then you won't know. But this should be a good fight, this rematch.
No, I heard about it. And you know what? I think I did see snippets of it. I think I was streaming it, but I think I had a bad stream. Yeah, I think that was. I remember it. I think I had a bad stream, but I was looking at parts of it. Yes, and I think I don't know if I watched the replay. I planned on watching it, but I never got a chance to watch the replay. But yeah, the fight looked like it was a hell of a fight. Between the two guys. And it's funny, I remember Fraser Clark when I was in the UK. I used to see him always at the fights. He was a big kid.
He did a lot of security work back then.
Yeah, he was always at the fight. And I'm like, damn. And I didn't know. At the time, I don't think I knew he was a fighter. Because I know he was. I guess he was obviously. He was doing the security, so I'm not thinking he's doing the security and is a fighter necessarily, but I know he's a big fucking kid. But then to hear he fought for Team GB. I was like, okay, so he must have been good. And then I saw the fight. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, he is kind of decent. Like, yeah, he has some skill. So and then he was, like I said, he's an Olympian. So you know what I mean. You got to give him credit. But that fight, from what I seen at that time, was a good ass fight. So I think this next one's going to be the same. Probably be a pretty good fight. But the other kid was more explosive, and it just seemed like it was almost like waiting for it to happen. You know, the other fight, like, oh, he's going to catch him and he's going to end up getting hurt, hurting him and getting him out of there. But it just never happened. And Fraser Clark just kept on it. I'm starting to remember it now. And he just kept with it, stayed with it. It was a good fight. It was a good-ass fight. I'm looking forward to this one, actually.
Yeah, again, I kind of recall, I hope I'm not making this up, but I do kind of recall you watching it. I remember at the time being a bit surprised that you'd watched it. But anyway, should be a good fight. They've got Fabio Wardley as the favourite. The bookies are expecting him to get the stoppage. I tell you what, the odds on either man winning on points are very tempting. You can almost get 4-1 for Fabio Wardley to win on points. I think that's a brilliant bet there. And also 7-2 for Fraser Clark to win on points. Again, very possible. I don't know why the bookies are so sure that Fabio Wardley's going to go in there and stop him. It is an instant rematch. A lot of the time when we see two guys go 12 rounds, when they rematch, it usually goes 12 rounds again. I know that's probably sometimes a bit different with the heavyweights, but we'll have to wait and see. But a great fight for the undercard. Also on the card, now this one here I'm not entirely sure is a great fight for the undercard, but it is for the IBF Cruiserweight World title. It's friend of the show, Jai Opetaia, who is currently 25-0 with 19 of them inside the distance. Of course, coming off that win last time out against Maris Bradis, in which again he had to dig deep. He went 12 rounds and again had some very hairy moments in the last round. He steps in with Jack Massey, who I've said for years and years is such an underrated fighter. I think he's been mismanaged, mispromoted. This guy is such a good fighter, and it's a real shame that I'm seeing him just get slung in the opposite corner as an underdog, repeatedly now. Again, he had a very close fight with Richard Riakporhe back in 2019, come back with 4 wins after that, then got thrown in against Joseph Parker at heavyweight. He moved up from cruiser to heavy to fight Joseph Parker and gave him a right hard fight. He had a point took off of his score for holding in the 8th round, and Joseph Parker, ended up winning on points, and Joseph Parker did not look very good, and that was before Joseph went on this crazy run that he's still on. There was one fight before that crazy run where he did not look good, and it was against Jack Massey. Jack Massey was an underdog against Parker, pushed him close. He was an underdog against Isaac Chamberlain in his last fight and managed to upset the odds. He's a very, very good fighter. However, we're talking about Jai Opetaia here, who I think has just got a little bit too much flavour for Jack Massey. I think Jack Massey's one of those fighters, and I hate to use this term in boxing where you say that he does all the basics well but nothing spectacular. I don't like to use that too often because I think it's took out of context. It doesn't sometimes make sense to people, and it can also sound like a bit of a backhanded compliment, to be honest with you. But Jack Massey kind of is that, I think he's a very, very good fighter. Like I say, I've been hyping him up for years and years. Shame we've never had him on the podcast. I think he follows me on Twitter, but never managed to get him on. I'd love to get him on. I think he's a brilliant fighter. But like I say, I think he does the basics very, very well. The only thing is, he's not getting in with a textbook boxer here. He's not getting in with a basic fighter. He really is getting in with the best of the best at the weight. And I think we're going to see rounds because obviously, like I say, Jack Massey got in there with Joseph Parker and took those shots with ease, to be honest. He didn't look troubled by anything Parker threw at him over their 10 rounds that they shared. So I think Parker's a bigger puncher than Jai Opetaia. I just don't think, I think Jai Opetaia is faster. He'll set his shots up better. He's just more methodical. He's just more, like I say, he's got more spice. than a Joseph Parker, than a Jack Massey. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a late stoppage here for Jai Apatai. Like I say, I'd be very surprised if he got him out, you know, in the same fashion that he's been getting out the other Brits he's been stepping in the ring with, the likes of Ellis Zorro, guys like that. I don't think we're going to see, or Jordan Thompson, I don't think we're going to see a demolition here. I think it's going to go late. If I had to pick a round, I'd probably say he's going to probably get to him maybe about round 8, round 9. But yeah, I think the hand speed is going to cause Jack Massey problems here. And like I say, the way he sets his shots up, he's very, very heavy-handed, very clever in the ring. And like I say, you know, it's a big compliment to pay Apatai, but I have felt in the past that he's like a Bivol who's bigger and stronger and hits harder. You know, the way that he kind of jumps in and out, he's very, very good. Anyway, very good fight, like I say. Well, I said it's not. It might not be so good. That's just because I don't want to see Jack Massey getting stopped. But you know, it's great. It's great that the fight's happening. I guess it's good to see Jai back out again. It's good for Jack Massey to get a payday. But I just think he could have achieved, you know, a lot more. He's currently very much an underachiever, I think. And now, Eddie, you've been silent pretty much for the whole show, so I'm going to come to you straight away. Artur Beterbiev 20-0, Dmitry Bivol 23-0 for the IBF, for the IBO, for the WBC, for the WBO light heavyweight world titles. If I'm not mistaken, it is the undisputed fight, though I can't see the WBA on the line on BoxRec for some reason. Don't know, don't care. This is a kind of fight that needs no belts at all. We're trying to determine who the best Russian is. We're trying to determine who the best light heavyweight in the world is. This is clearly the two best at the weight. No one is disputing that. Doesn't matter the belt situation. I mean, I was talking about this earlier on today before we recorded the show with someone else, and I was saying this is really the classic boxer against puncher. That's not to say that Bivol can't punch, and that's not to say that Beterbiev isn't a smart fighter. But we know Bivol is arguably the smartest fighter in the world. He's right up there. I put him right up there, pound for pound, in terms of his boxing IQ. He's up there with the Lomachenkos, with the Usyks, for sure, in my books. I thought the way he beat Canelo was so impressive. But will he be able to be smart enough to stay away from those big punches from Beterbiev, who, of course, has stopped everyone he's been in a ring with? Is Bivol that special? Yes, I think he is. The bookies think he is. They've got him as the favourite. I cannot believe the price on Beterbiev to win by stoppage. He's 2-1 to win by stoppage. Like, that is absolutely crazy. You will never see odds like that for Beterbiev to get a stoppage being 2-1. He's stopped 20 out of 20, for crying out loud. Anyway, I've rambled on too much. But like I say, Eddie, this is a classic boxer versus puncher. Not to knock either guy for, you know, the lack of punching or the lack of, you know, ring IQ. But we're going to see that. We know how the fight's going to play out. I mean, there's no secret here. Bivol's not going to stand in front of Beterbiev and try to bang with him. And Beterbiev is probably not going to try and play the long game. He's going to want to get up close, get on the inside and let his hands go. Bivol has to be switched the hell on. What's going to happen?
Yeah, I think Bivol's going to have to be switched on times two to what he was with Canelo. Because, you know, obviously Canelo's coming up. Canelo's a hell of a puncher. He's a hell of a boxer. He's got a lot of things going for him. But Beterbiev, man, is just, oh, man, he's just another animal in itself with it. It's just, you know, I was listening to different guys who were sparring with him. Now, we're talking about big gloves and headgear. And they were saying that when they got hit by him, it was just like, you know, the one guy said it was like a dream. You know what I'm saying? He got hit and it felt like he was just like falling in a dream and, you know, you don't hit the ground. It was just, he said it was just like one of the craziest things he's ever felt is being in the ring with Beterbiev. So, I mean, look, I've seen him fight. I mean, we've seen him against different guys. We've seen him against good punchers. We've seen him against good boxers. We've seen him against a lot of different types of guys, and he stopped them all. It's kind of hard to go against that. Obviously, Dimitri Bivol, he's special. He's got that weird European-style boxer kind of, combinations don't necessarily make sense to the traditional American-type style, which makes him, it doesn't make him any less good, but it's just not traditional to what I'm used to seeing. But he's just got so many good qualities and his abilities, and his boxing IQ is so high. But all of that sounds great. It's all true, but will he be able to keep Beterbiev off him? Is his punching power enough, or his boxing ability and IQ enough to keep him from getting in range and putting his hands on him? I just don't think he can. To me, he would have to not get hit consistently. And what I mean by consistently is I'm talking about, not maybe no more than 2-3 power for, let's say anywhere below 10 power punches landed per round. If he is getting hit with anything close to that from this guy and actually take it, I just don't think he'll be able to take it over the course of a long fight. I just don't. And to be able to keep him off, like I've watched other good quality boxers. They're not Dimitri Bivol. I'm not saying they are, but I've watched other good quality boxers, and they just can't keep him off him. It's kind of the same kind of thing with Triple G. They just could not keep him off for a long enough period. They had to, at some point, fight back. And the only one with Triple G was Canelo that was able to actually sustain any kind of real attack, as well as, without getting knocked the hell out. And maybe that's Bivol. I don't know. But, man, Beterbiev, it just seems like he's in a whole different class, man. Not better than Bivol, but I'm talking about than maybe he's faced, with the exception of Canelo. He's just so strong, so powerful, and you could just see it. He doesn't look like he tries to punch hard. He doesn't look like he's putting every ounce of power into each punch. And let's not forget, he was a high level amateur too, and he's also a hell of a puncher and a pressure fighter. So these types of things all play into his hands, in my opinion. But doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean Bivol can't outbox him and win the fight going away, because that's definitely all possible. I just do not see how he's be able to keep him off for 12 rounds. And that's what's really making it hard for me to see how he wins. You know what I mean? Yes, he can box and all of that, and that sounds great. But I don't think he can stand there and allow him to beat on his arms or punch at his head and him to defend it like that over the course of a 12-round fight, especially if he's trying to be offensive enough to get a win himself. He's going to have to take chances. And if he's taking those chances and he's throwing punches, he can be hit. And if he can be hit, possibly he could be hurt. So I know I was rambling a lot about this, but this fight is extremely interesting. It's one of the best fights that can be made in boxing, in my opinion, especially for the hardcore guys. And man, it's gonna be a lot of shit going on, man. It's gonna be a lot of fireworks. I'm so looking forward to it. But I really think Beterbiev probably mid to late rounds.
There we go. Fast Eddie has had his say. Beterbiev stoppage. I tell you what, the odds are very tempting. I had to have a little go on that, because 2-1 is just crazy. I think it's just under 2-1, but thereabouts. Anyway, that is it for the preview part of the show. You do not want to miss that card there, by the way. In part 1, we did the review part, then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2, we did the news and the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 469 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive shout out to this week's special guest, that man being the former WBC Flyweight Champion of the World, Mr. Charlie Edwards. You hear his voice on the intro every single week. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people, which I know you will. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week.